I call this regular meeting of the San Marcos City Council to order. Today is Wednesday, November 5th of 2025. The time is 6:02. Ms. Cordova, would you please call the roll?
Ms. Rodriguez, Mr. Gonzalez, Ms. Garza, Mayor Houston,
Here.
Mr. Scott,
Here.
Mr. Mendoza,
Here.
Mr. Gonzalez.
Here.
We have a quorum present, Mayor.
Okay, and our other two, they're here somewhere. They'll be right back. We will move on to our pledges of allegiance to the United States and Texas. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. Pledge allegiance to thee. Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible. All right, our next is our citizen comment time period. And I have on our list 3 people. So you'll be speaking in this order: Cindy Laird, Sam Young, and Neville Stiles. Cindy Laird will be first. If you would state your name when you begin to speak, and if you'll hold on one second. City Council will hear citizen comments at regular meetings, work sessions, and workshops. Those wishing to speak, there is a sign-up process. Nobody's online. Speakers may speak once and may not yield time to others. You will have 3 minutes to speak after you state your name. You'll see the timer on the screen. You'll start in the green bar. When the timer shows only yellow, you'll have less than 20 seconds left, and you'll hear a little ping. And when the timer is red, your time to speak is up, and a bell will ring. If you happen to hear a popping sound, if you'll step back a little from the microphone, and the mayor and council will endeavor to ensure that meetings are conducted in a courteous manner and in an atmosphere free of defamation, intimidation, personal insults, profanity, or threats of violence. If you do any of those, you will hear the gavel, and I will ask you to leave the council chambers. This is your warning. Cindy Laird, you are first. If you would, when you state your name,
I
your
sure
time will
will.
start.
Okay. I'm Cindy Laird. I want to address the mayor and city council on items number 4 and 5, which is the pay raises for police and fire department. I'd like to express my strong support for the proposed pay raises for our San Marcos first responders, 5% increase for police and 4.5% increase for the fire department personnel. I recognize that this year's budget represents real challenges, and I urge you to consider the larger context facing our city as San Marcos continues to experience steady growth and an increase in major incidents that place heavier demands on our police and fire departments. These men and women are the foundation of our community's safety and stability, and yet many are overworked and stretched thin trying to keep up with rising call volumes and expanded responsibilities. Competitive pay is essential to recruit and retain skilled and dedicated professionals who protect our residents, respond in emergencies, and keep our neighborhoods safe. Falling behind on compensation risks losing experienced officers and firefighters to nearby cities, an outcome that would ultimately cost the city more in turnover, training, and diminished service quality. Investing in our first responders is an investment in well-being and future of San Marcos. I respectfully ask that you approve these modest but vital pay increases, and thank you for your commitment to public safety and for supporting those who serve our community every day. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Sam Young.
Yes, Sam Young. I also rise in support of the pay raises for the police and the fire department. We've had great leadership for both organizations. I don't know about crime statistics, they're supposed to be down, but in the last several weeks, we've had 2 murders on the square in downtown San Marcos, and I don't think that's the image that San Marcos wants to be presenting in order to attract tourists. I don't know whether it's outsiders or what's causing it, and I'm not blaming it on the police, but that's a reason to give raises to police to increase morale and to hopefully make their lives easier outside of work. One of my other considerations is I attended when y'all set up the deal for the police review, the study. I attended one of those, and somewhere in there it come to my mind that there's some people in San Marcos want to try to scare people not to support the police or not to trust them. Now, I'm one of those, law and order. I trust them. I was hauled out of a car when I was a teenager by a sheriff's deputy for whatever reason. But it seems that you want to make people afraid rather than support. And if policemen are doing something wrong, they're subject to the same laws as everyone else. You got a strong police chief. If there's an incident, he can handle it, even if it means up to an arresting and prosecution of a police officer. But the pay raises and the current what do you call it? Current situation, current events in our city and in the nation, we do need strong law enforcement, and law enforcement officers need to be paid, and the firefighters need to be paid as well. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Neville Stiles.
Good evening. I'm Neville Stiles. You can call me Jay Stiles. And I live at 3130 Summit Ridge Drive. I've been a resident of San Marcos for 32 years. And I want to preface my comments by saying that I didn't come up here tonight to make friends. I came up here to speak truth to the best of my ability, but I am not happy. And I hope that you will listen and not turn me off just because I'm blunt. I'm pretty good at being blunt. So I look at what's going on in this city and the leadership that's being provided, and I look at things like, what are the responsibilities for the people in this room? It's pretty simple, really. You know, citizens want good roads, they want good schools for children, they want public safety, want to be able to go to the square and hang out with their families. You want good emergency services and fiscal responsibility. Oh, I might need to explain what that is based on what we've been doing in this city for some years now. So, as I mentioned before, we're a poor town. We have very low per capita income, but we spend money as if we were rich on some of the silliest things. One of the things, very near where the shooting took place this last weekend, we said, well, let's spend $4 or $5 million or more to fix an alleyway. It's ridiculous. At the same time that you're not able to balance a budget for the city, and you have all of these absurd things that you want to do, that's when you have to say no. We're not going to spend that money irresponsibly. We don't have the ability to go back and indebt ourselves more with more bonds. We pretty much maxed that out. We have the highest tax rate of any municipality in the region, bar none. I've got friends in Long Island, New York, that pay lower taxes than I do here in San Marcos. And that's a real problem. So y'all have these responsibilities to the citizens of this city. And there have been a lot of efforts to make things better, but there have been instances where things have just fallen short. And particularly this last weekend, we're having mayhem on our square after we already had multiple shootings there previously. I wrote to the mayor and said, here's what we can do to prevent it. No answer. So I ask now for the mayor and the chief of police to resign because there's blood on your hands. Thank you.
And that concludes our citizen comment time period for today. And for our consent agenda, it is items 1 through 3. Council, is there anything that anyone wishes to pull from the consent agenda which may be acted upon by one motion?
Mayor, can I say something before y'all get into the consent agenda? Would that be okay?
Yes, my apologies.
That's okay.
Go right ahead.
That's okay. Mayor, council, and members of the San Marcos community, this past weekend, our community experienced deeply troubling and violent events in our city and downtown area. I want to begin by acknowledging the pain, the fear, and uncertainty this has caused for so many. First and foremost, on behalf of the city of San Marcos, I extend our heartfelt condolences to the family of Ronnie Hernandez Jr. Our thoughts and condolences are with his family during this unimaginable time of grief. We are also grateful to our downtown business owners and employees. We understand that the police response and temporary bar closures were disruptive, and we sincerely appreciate your patience and cooperation as officers work diligently to secure the area and protect the public. The safety of our residents, visitors, Texas State students, and business community is and will remain our highest priority. The San Marcos Police Department is actively investigating all 4 shootings and will continue to provide updates as information becomes available. We take these incidents very seriously. In partnership with Texas State University and our downtown business community through the Downtown Association, we are exploring solutions to address ongoing concerns and enhance safety measures. We will keep working closely with the mayor and city council as we move forward on this together. Our downtown is the heart of San Marcos, and we remain fully committed to ensuring it is a safe, welcoming place for everyone who lives, works, and visits here. Lastly, I want to express our deep gratitude to all of our law enforcement partners who responded swiftly to us. Agencies across Hays County, including the Hays County Sheriff's Office, Texas Department of Public Safety, Kyle Police Department, Buda Police Department, Texas State University Police Department, and Hays County Precinct 1 Constable David Peterson and his deputies. They all came together in support of our community. We are truly thankful for their professionalism, teamwork, and continued partnership. I want to assure you, we take this very seriously and want to tackle this in all the different realms that we need to try to understand why this is occurring, and we want to take our downtown back. Thank you.
Consent agenda, does anyone wish to pull anything from items 1 through 3? If not, I would entertain a motion to approve items 1 through 3. I have a motion by Ms. Rodriguez, seconded by Mr. Mendoza. And are we ready to vote?
Passes 7-0.
All right. Then we are on to item 4.
Consider approval of Resolution 2025-210, approving a memorandum of understanding to extend the current meet and confer agreement with the San Marcos Professional Firefighters Association, Local 3963, to September 30, 2027, and to provide a 4.5% base pay salary increase for firefighters beginning October 1st, 2026, authorizing the city manager or her designee to execute the memorandum of understanding and declaring an effective date.
Motion to approve. Second.
Motion from Mr. Scott, seconded by Mr. Mendoza. Council discussion.
I actually want to make a motion to amend our approval subject to,
Oh, hold on.
I'm waiting, did you get a chance this? Sorry,
I think
I just.
Hold
was
on a
trying-
second. Do we have a presentation?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, we do?
Can
Oh,
you-
I can
can
wait,
you
I can
hang
wait,
on?
yeah.
All right.
Wonderful, thank you. Good evening, Mayor, Council. Lindsay Cox, Human Resources Director. Tonight, we come before you to present the Fire and Police Department Meet and Confer Agreements. Next slide, please. The Meet and Confer process is governed by Chapter 142 of the Texas Local Government Code, which is designed to let both city management as well as the associations negotiate important employment issues such as wages, benefits, and working conditions. Once adopted, these agreements are codified into formal contracts referred to as meet and confer agreements. Next slide. These contracts can modify certain provisions of state law to better reflect our local needs as well as our community standards. The process strengthens recruitment and helps us attract more qualified candidates and keep experienced team members. It also promotes accountability, wellness, and professionalism, ensuring both police and fire departments reflect the values and expectations of our community. Ultimately, it's a tool to help enhance the quality and sustainability of public safety services for our residents. Next slide. The city began using meet and confer in 2009, and since then, we've had several agreements, as you can see on this slide, each evolving to reflect lessons learned and the city's growing needs. The current agreement, the one we're in right now, our fifth agreement, runs through September 30th of 2026. As you may recall, the previous police agreement was repealed in early 2023 and subsequently renegotiated to demonstrate our shared commitment to transparency and improvement. Next slide. Over the years, Meet and Confer has allowed flexibility and efficiency in how we operate. Examples of that are seen through our lateral entry program, which allows us to bring in both certified officers and firefighters, saving time and training costs. Our disciplinary, extending time and timeline for investigations from 180 to 300 days, ensuring we have adequate time to review and act on misconduct fairly and thoroughly. And our promotional process, which allows us to utilize assessment centers alongside our written exams to better evaluate leadership and readiness and skills. Each of these provisions has made our department stronger and more responsive to our community expectations. Next slide. Both staff and associations are recommending a one-year contract extension. The purpose of the extension is to allow sufficient time to review contract strategies and ensure the next agreements are both competitive and fiscally responsible. And most importantly, give us time to evaluate the ongoing EMS service transition as well. The extension provides the stability needed to make informed, sustainable decisions for both departments and our residents. Next slide. Thank you for your time and continued support of both our fire and police departments. I'm happy to answer any questions that council may have.
Yeah, let's go with your amendment now.
Yeah, I make a motion to amend and to make our approval subject to the following. And I can read it out loud, just for the sake of time.
Yeah,
That
go
works
ahead.
for my colleagues?
Okay, but somebody's going to put it up on the screen?
Yes, ma'am,
Okay.
just given the
Yeah, go
names.
ahead.
I move that the city require all meet and confer contract negotiations between the city and the representative associations of public safety employees to be conducted exclusively in meetings that are publicly noticed, recorded, and broadcast. The city manager, in coordination with appropriate city staff, shall ensure that members of the public are afforded a reasonable opportunity to provide comment at the commencement and prior to the conclusion of each such meeting, subject to established procedural rules. All documents exchanged between the city and any representative association during these publicly recorded and broadcast meetings shall be made publicly accessible. The city manager is further directed that if any time before or during the course of meet and confer contract negotiations between the city and a representative association for public safety employees, city staff proposes to deviate from the established policy of conducting publicly accessible negotiations, the city manager shall seek council authorization for such deviation through a waiver approved by a majority vote of the council at a regularly posted council meeting.
We have a motion, and I'm looking to see if there is a second, and I can wait because I'm going to need to read that again to digest it
Yes, ma'am.
myself. So I'll give y'all some time. Are you seconding it? Okay.
And I
mark
can
that.
go into each of the parts if that kind of helps my colleagues with rationale.
So I have a question. If we were to adopt the motion, would that mean that the associations would have to vote on it again since we're changing the terms?
I believe so. I think they'd have to agree to those terms. So it would have to go back to the membership is my feeling on that.
Yeah, and just for my colleagues to understand precedent where I'm coming from, earlier this year, the city of Austin actually passed a resolution that required really the same thing, with the exception of some parts, just in response to the fact that we know these agreements, it was attested to it earlier, are very costly, but they're also just nuanced, they're long. And so this gives, given the history in the city of accusations of lack of transparency during this process, it makes it transparent, and there is, given that this particular ability to do meet and confer is granted under Section 142 of the Local Government Code, there is a clause in there that does require open deliberations. Specifically, it's Section 142063, and it says deliberations relating to a meet and confer agreement or proposed agreement under this subchapter between representatives of the public employer and representatives of the Police Officers Association, elected by a majority vote of the officers to be the sole, and goes on, must be open to the public and comply with state law. So this isn't unfounded. I definitely understand why we as a city, I've heard the arguments, I get it. But this just is something to make sure that this is still available to the public. And in that last paragraph, you'll see there is still the ability, similar to us as a council, in the need to meet in a closed session, that is still available.
Okay, you gave numbers, but I need to know where the periods are in between them. The 142063,
Yes, ma'am. I have a copy.
no, I just need to know what the section is.
Oh,
Is
I
it
see what-
1.42 or is
so,
it 14.2?
I get what you're getting.
Yeah.
Section 142063, subsection A. It's, the title of that section is called Open Deliberations.
What, are you talking about in the code or are you
This
talking
is
about
in
in the
statute.
contract?
This is in
Okay.
state statute.
All right.
Yeah.
So I have a question, and that is, Ms. Reyes, what is different here from what we do now? What's required now? Which is why I was looking for it in the agreement. It was my understanding that all of these meetings were open.
I haven't had a lot of time to look at this, because we just talked about it right before. And so what I do know is our meetings are televised. They are posted online. They are open to the public. From what I understand with what's being requested here is to allow opportunity for public comment, and that's the difference. And so that's what I understand
They're not
is the difference.
recorded though, right?
They are recorded. Now, last time, we recorded them because of the repeal
Right.
and all that kind of stuff. We did have them open to the public, and we actually did record them, and we posted them in the Agenda Center.
But that's like new.
This
From
last contract.
2023?
Correct. The last time we did the full negotiation. You're
Gotcha,
correct.
gotcha, yes, okay.
So police and fire were both videotaped.
Mm-hmm.
And the associations were both okay with that. And then we posted them online. The difference is the public comment, from what I understand.
But was that unique to that situation where we had a substantial amount of our neighbors from across the board, across political backgrounds, had lots of different rationales, reasonings that they shared here for hours at citizen commentary? My question is, was that decision to open it up because of that conversation and limit it to that conversation? Or was it just, or did we make it so that that is the standard moving forward? Like, did we codify it?
So we have our ground rules that we agree to at the beginning of each process between the association and management. And so that was agreed to when we went through the process with those ground rules. Every negotiation process, we have to adopt new ground rules. And so, again, both parties have to agree to the ground rules that are set forward. So anything we would do would have to be agreed to by them as part of the ground rules. With that said, I think it would be impractical for us to think that we televised them and then we're going to go back and not televise them. I think that is probably something that we know, that once you set the precedent for that, that it's hard to undo. So, like I said, from what I know about what this amendment is the difference is just the public comment. That's what's different than what we currently do or have done in the past.
The other, I guess, the other thing, Mr. is the part about the documents exchanged. Now, the reality is they are already subject to the Public Information Act, and I guess the difference here is when you're saying they will be exchanged, publicly recorded.
And see, I don't know that. I know that, I don't think that all the documents exchanged, I don't think that they're publicly accessible until, and Sam, I think that's a legal question, but what I understand is when things are in deliberation, we don't make those publicly accessible because those are things that are still going through.
And that's true. That could be the deliberative process, but it depends what they are. But the Public Information Act basically addresses that. So this does open it up to, it would be a voluntary agreement between the parties, because again, the association would have to approve these terms as well. And so it would be a variance from the Public Information Act is what that change is doing.
Yeah, because, I mean, there could be different, whether it's costing models that are draft,
Right.
all of that, you'd be putting that in the public realm. So I hadn't caught that. Thank you, Sam.
Okay.
Question
Mr.
on- oh, sorry.
Hold on, Mr. Lorenzo Gonzalez, then Mr. Sal Gonzalez, and I've got a question about one of the words up here, and I'll go back to you. Is there something you needed to explain through here?
Just on that,
Go ahead.
that specific area, when we say that there may be documents that are impermissible to share, I understand if there's legal constraints, if that is a comma after, unless subject to, it's hard to think of it off the top of my head. I mean, I would be amenable to that. Obviously,
want-
I'm not asking us to go past.
Yeah, do you want to think on that for a minute, and
I
I'll go to
will.
these
Give me
two
a second
folks?
to write it.
And I've got my question. Mr. Lorenzo Gonzalez.
So kind of under the same line of thought as earlier. So I remember when we first discussed this, there's a deadline for us to agree to an extension. What is that deadline again?
Our deadline is, decision has to be made by January 1st, and then we have to begin negotiations if we're not going to extend by February 1st.
Okay, so if this amendment were to pass tonight, it would have to go back to the association. They would have to vote on it, and then it come back to us, and then we vote to accept it essentially in one of the next 3 meetings.
That is my understanding, yes, sir.
Or we just, if the time runs out, we could always just have like a special meeting or something.
Okay.
Mr. Sal Gonzalez.
Thank you. In order for us to have dialogue, those meetings have to be conducted live. Is there going to be a time limit? Because I would hate to have 40 people show up saying the same old thing and prolong the meeting. Another question, that's one question. Second question, how many representatives does the city have in those meetings? And how many representatives do they have when it comes to that meet and confer?
It's usually agreed to in the ground rules. I want to say it's no more than 7
Correct.
for each side. So it's a significant amount of staff that's involved in this on both sides. So typical processes in the past have been myself, Assistant City Manager, Human Resources Director, Police and Fire Chiefs, or some police or fire resource, Finance Director,
City Attorney.
City Attorney, we would have in some of our things that we would need. And I think actually a second Assistant City Manager too, because one's over HR and one's over Public Safety.
Then what
So
you're
there's
saying,
7.
you have both entities there at the same time when you're doing meet and confer. It's not separated between.
Now, they're separated in the sense that we have meetings for fire and you have meetings for police.
Okay.
And so those are separate meetings. And that would be the concern, and it sounds like with the way that this is worded is it would be up to my discretion or our discretion to work through, because that would be my concern. We have limited time that we do these meetings. And so if this was like 3-hour citizen comment,
Yeah,
we're not elected officials.
I'd like to, I think, I appreciate the question, my colleague. I think that's why when crafting this, I was very intentional on, when we talk about that second sentence, the city manager in coordination with appropriate city staff shall ensure, or let's see, where we? subject to established procedural rules and the usage of reasonable opportunity. Similar to Toma, a city, we're granted the same authority, which I'm glad we don't, but to put time limits or a time frame on public comments. Obviously, we don't want it to where it's impeding on business. That's not the intention of this amendment. And so it does give the discretion to establish some sort of procedural rules as to continue to go on about business.
One other question. Typically, how many meetings do y'all have? Is it 5 for a month, 5 meetings a month, or? How much time does it take from y'all?
A lot. It's significant.
Okay.
It gets to a point, because we have to do it within the fiscal year, like during that time of the fiscal year and that time frame to get it for budget, it gets to a point where you're actually meeting with either police or fire every other week, in addition to any caucus meetings.
Right.
Each meeting is probably at least a 4-hour time block. So it does definitely impede on the time that we have available to do other things. And I think, just to be very frank, the reason that we approach the associations about doing the extenders was because of the uncertainty, with the economy, because of the significant discussions we have around EMS. And quite frankly, we're going to have a very challenging budget year with this staffing analysis. And we've already started that, and I've had to have very difficult conversations with my team today. And so we're having to work through all of that. I need some time. We all need some time, all of us who are involved in this process, to be able to spend on these other things to make sure that we can responsibly run the city and recalibrate the budget where we're going to need to have it be for this upcoming FY 27, which we will be talking about with mayor and council during the visioning and budget session.
Well, for transparency reasons, I think it's a good idea. We don't got nothing to hide, and they don't have nothing to hide, and what's going to be talked about is what's better for San Marcos on both ends. Yeah, I don't have a problem with it. I think that's something that people are looking forward to have, and, that's my take at this time and point on this. Let me ask you one other question, I'm sorry. What's your thought on this?
Well, I wouldn't want to put the city manager in a position to make a policy decision. I think that might be a little bit awkward. And so I would just probably urge my colleagues that the decision, remain a council decision.
Okay. Okay, that's all I have. ma'am.
Okay, my question, you say commencement. Usually when we're talking about commencement, like the university, we call it graduation, they call it, it's the end. And so when I was reading that, I thought provide public comment at the end, and then you've got, and prior to the conclusion. Are you talking about the beginning and the end?
We can just say for the or to get rid of the jargon, we can say beginning and end.
Beginning, but that's your intent?
That's the intent.
So we're talking about public comment before they start, and public comment after.
And the after is though, when I say reasonable opportunity and subject to established procedural rules, just for the sake of naming intent for the sake of the record. It is not the intent of this specific motion to turn this into a Q&A. That is not the intent. It is if somebody perhaps, and I can change the and to a and or to a or, whatever y'all are amenable to, but as long as there's an opportunity. But similar to council, sometimes people are just running late or, they still want to be able to say something. Those two opportunities would be afforded.
I can't support this without knowing what the rules are, because that citizen comment, depending on how long you give each person, it could run for hours. And I don't think that that's something that we need, when they're going to be there for 4 hours, that we need to start with that, and then a possibility of hours afterwards.
Well, I appreciate the comments. I will say the discretion I was granting to the city manager was, I was trying to avoid putting such stringent language on how these things are to be ran, just given I'm not sure how they are ran. So the language being so discretionary as to what we're seeing before us today was to allow the opportunity for them to craft their own rules, which is really unlike many other things I've done. You know, I'm normally pretty down to the T. The discretionary language here, though, is understanding, to your point, that these sessions may differ, things, circumstances may change. But there is a public notice on here, and so to whatever is decided, the public notice, similar to ours, would have, you know,
Yeah.
that information.
I agree in concept that people should be able to address the process. It's just, without knowing what those rules are. But here's the deal, let's say if somebody wanted to say, okay, we're gonna limit it to 2 hours. What do you do with the next person who wants to speak that didn't get to?
Give them the
So
option of
that's-
submitting something online.
I would say that, I was going where you're talking about now, for people who want to provide input into the process, I would say set up a way, a particular email address perhaps, that those would go to. And those be provided in however far in advance of these meetings, and for each one. So the one before the next one's really the same as the conclusion of the previous one, but you've had time to think about it.
Sure.
So I'm good with all of that. It's just without knowing what rules there would be for people to come in and speak, I can't support that without knowing what the limits are.
Well, I will say, I don't know how our session's different than what the legislature does. But when a member brings an item before the legislative body, there may be language within that particular bill that they're discussing. The member, though, that is taking the item before the actual body is allowed to express the intent of the actual amendment. And so this discussion being recorded is providing that intent behind the amendment. And so if it's your intent to do something similar, I have no opposition to that. I think even if it's a, you know, email or whatever, you know, at least we're trying additional ways for people to participate. I have no opposition to that. But if you are also comfortable with an amendment, I do have amendment I just crafted in my head to address the third sentence. So,
Third
I'm
sentence
open.
of the first bullet?
Yes, ma'am, that was the conversation we had about,
Oh, to
well, can we
clarify
or
about-
can we not? I was thinking just a simple, at the end of the sentence, except where disclosure is prohibited by law.
That's what I was
Yeah.
thinking, from what Mr. Aguirre said.
So I think I should clarify that because some disclosures are discretionary. So a lot of things like deliberative process is not prohibited to be released, right? It's discretionary to not. So just so y'all understand that, and it's your prerogative to say that's what our standard is going to be. But if your intention is to basically follow the restrictions in the Public Information Act, I do have some possible wording as an alternative. It's really.
That's fine. I mean, that particular section right there was actually from the ordinance that Austin passed prior to going into their meet and confer agreements. But if there is something that makes us a little bit more comfortable for the sake of legal purposes, completely understand and am amenable to an amendment to that as well.
Well, not only more comfortable, but for the perception of the public, because if they see this, they're gonna think it really means all documents. And when you come back and go, oh, wait a minute, some of these are not qualified to be released, then they're going, oh, what games are you playing?
I understand.
So
I mean-
I did have some alternative language, but just I want to make clear, I'm not saying you don't have the option to say, we want anything discretionary to go out. That would be an option, but I'm not hearing that coming from the council, but I didn't want to suggest that I'm restricting your options. So, but if you're wanting to just basically stick with the Public Information Act, I would add at the beginning of that last sentence, subject to the Texas Public Information Act and exceptions to disclosure allowed therein, comma, and then you would finish the sentence. I can repeat that again if you need.
Slowly.
All right. Subject to the Texas Public Information Act and exceptions to disclosure therein, comma, and then there you go. That's an option.
But
Okay.
then the except where disclosure is prohibited by law would then,
Well, no, that would be without that language I just mentioned.
that's what, oh, yeah.
Yeah.
The only thing that I would have concern about is just, I would want it to be very clear that we're not gonna release draft documents. Just having been a part of this process for several cycles, there's so much back and forth that goes back in with them, and I would hate for, sometimes it's the association that brings some language that they want us to look at, sometimes it's our language that we want them to look at, and then we come up with a final. I wouldn't want these documents floating out there and creating misinformation.
I got an amendment. That's a good
And
point.
those
Under,
are
after
the-
all documents, do you feel comfortable with all documents except draft documents, comma, exchange between the city and da 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 da? It
You know,
explicitly would say.
I understand your concern, but here's where we're getting into a little, now you're saying, except for these documents, does that suggest now your failure to include other ones means they are subject to disclosure? So that's why I was saying if the Public Information Act allows deliberative process documents to not be disclosed, I suppose
Especially-
we could
Okay.
come up with wording, but
Because
it's
you
gonna
come
take
to
some.
tentative, or just, again, knowing the way the process works, you come to tentative agreement on certain sections, but it's called tentative agreement for a reason. You do that because at the time, you're thinking that those are agreements that are gonna be made by both parties. However, you get into some of the harder conversations later, and those things could be revisited.
Okay, so I'm
And so
gonna,
that makes it even, and so that's why it's not till like the full agreement is actually, now, if it's the agendas and what we're gonna talk about, fair, fair stuff with that.
so I have a suggestion. This
But
is
that's my
why, and
concern.
people wonder why contracts read the way they do, and this is a perfect example. So we could go, subject to the Texas Public Information Act and exceptions to disclosure therein, including exceptions, including but not limited to exceptions applicable to the deliberative process exception, comma. So we're calling that one out, but including but not limited to. That's a thought.
At that point, should we take out the word all? Ms. Rodriguez, this is your
I'm
amendment.
I'm comfortable, let me see, one second.
Would
I
that-
need to read it.
Ms. Reyes, or you want to specifically say draft documents? It would be a grammar fix there, just talking about documents versus exceptions.
And the mayor makes a good point. All might create some confusion, so I'm comfortable striking it.
Yeah, because this is documents shall be, so.
Yeah, thank you for catching that. But also, while I have you, did you have something like cleanup language as it relates to that public comment? No?
No.
Okay.
No, I was letting this part
And
play out.
I would take out, there's a second exception, the word exception just before the comma, whoever's typing. Is that Hayden?
The one after process, yeah, there you go.
To applicable to the deliberative process, exceptions applicable to documents covered by the deliberative process. I'm just working on the grammar there. I just want to make sure it flowed.
And thank you. I normally try to get my stuff ahead of time to y'all, but this one, I don't like using like AI and stuff, so it just took a little bit. So, I'm sorry.
Yes, and we're working on this, and what I'm going to ask you in a moment, just
Rescind it?
because procedurally, if you would like to withdraw your original motion to amend and present this one, and then
Yes,
I'll
ma'am.
ask Ms. Garza if she's still good with the second.
Yes,
So
ma'am. I think that
once
makes
we get
sense.
this wording down, It'll just be easier that way.
Yes, ma'am.
Amending amendments is,
And I want
Gets
to be so
tough.
clear about intent as well. I mean, this is not, I'm not opening it up just to get one specific commentary. No, like, y'all are welcome, everybody's welcome to this. It's open, you know? We want to hear all thoughts.
And one thing that will be very clear is, and I don't know if there's, if this is acceptable to the associations, but under no circumstances am I okay that we have to debate anybody, or that we have to sit there and go back and forth and answer questions. I don't think that is a fair position to put any of the negotiating teams on.
that's.
And so
what-
that is the only thing, and that's why I'm glad that she has the discretion in there, because that can be some ground rules, that can be time, because again, I'm not going to get into, I will answer factual questions, like always with anything, but somebody who's just wanting to make a point and wanting to debate and argue, I don't think that's a fair
I don't
place
want
to
an
put
hour of
everybody in.
ranting.
And I
Completely
think,
understand.
I think
Yeah.
those rules, Ms. Reyes, probably, especially because these are not elected officials, it can be about the merits of meet and confer, but it shouldn't be about, just like we have rules, defamation, intimidation, threats. Yeah, I think those types of rules could also be included, because going to your point, that's not the point of this session. It's to hear people speak to the merits, I think.
It's
And it-
also just not
Yeah.
productive.
Well, I'm thinking, and I may come back and say this is a bad idea, but I'm just thinking out loud, is if there were a forum for people to come and record this, and that recording could be made, and this is several days before, and the recording could be made, would be made available to those who are participating in the negotiations, for them to watch, review at their leisure, back it up, you know, make sure you understood what somebody said. But it's not at the beginning of the negotiations that can start things on a negative tone. I just don't think that's a good idea.
When you say a forum and before, like, what are we talking about? How,
I'm
what's the
just-
period of time?
It would have to be, we'd have to give them time to review it, okay? And so it would be, I don't know, it could be here, it could be activities, it could be somewhere.
Oh, you're saying like
wherever.
something in addition to what they're doing?
Yes.
Okay.
Separate and in addition to a couple of days before, where people can come in and state, like citizen comment here,
Yeah, yeah.
like they would there, and they can get their feelings out there. But it's not at the beginning, when they're getting ready to do 4 hours, that they're having to take another 3 hours of input when they're ready to go with their negotiations. But yet, if we want to have a public forum, that it's separate.
And you're not
But
saying
not,
that.
not months before.
Sure, sure. And you're not saying that with that would mean to strike anything from here. You're saying in addition. Am I understanding that correctly?
No, it would be instead of.
Yeah, no, unfortunately, I mean, that would make the entire motion moot. So, I mean, if we're talking about in addition to maybe let somebody get some of the steam off initially, I'm okay with that. I think it also might cut through some of the complexities of what these things are. I'm cool with in addition to. Because it was also my understanding that some of these meetings don't happen during the same time our council meetings happen. So the likelihood of there being this mass participation, I think, is unrealistic. While I love public participation, I just think if you're having these in the middle of the day, the average person is not going to be able to attend. So a forum like that, to your point, could provide that initial opportunity for people to comment on it. Because I can tell you, a lot of people didn't even know this was on the agenda or coming up. So I'm fine with in addition, but and/or, I wouldn't be able to support.
Okay.
Ma'am.
No, okay. Was that you that said you have a question? Or was it-
I think he caught me first, but go ahead. I'll go after.
No, what, did you say something? Okay. Okay, I just heard it from over here. Okay,
I
Mr.
mean,
Lorenzo
it's-
Gonzalez.
So, if I understand you correctly, the Austin model that this amendment is based on was essentially prior to them going into negotiations.
Yes, yes. This was in February of 2025, so earlier this year.
So I'm not against any of this in theory, My concern is this holding up the extension of the current agreement. So I guess my suggestion would be to not amend, basically this is the wrong time for this. If we were to pass an ordinance or whatever the proper process would be, directing staff to adopt all these rules and conditions prior to negotiations, similar to what Austin did, I'd be supportive of it. But my fear is this holding up the extension, because assuming the associations are okay with it and have no counter arguments, then it can be done before the deadline. But if the associations are then gonna do the same process that we're doing, but with a much bigger membership, and then they try to wordsmith what they need to do to send it back to us, and then I just feel that we're kind of up against a loaded gun, and we're gonna run the risk of putting us in an even worse situation if we're not able to agree to an extension on time.
Can we get the date again on when the contract is set to lapse if no motion is taken or no action is taken?
So we have until January 1st to decide if we're going to do the extender, and then the associations both have bylaws as well that dictate their voting periods. They have to get this out to the membership, so kind of to your point, they would need to educate their membership on what we're speaking about today. And then from that point, they would have to open up a vote and then ratify the vote and bring that back to us, and then we'd bring it to council if it was supported.
And was it the assumption, and I get that's a weird question because it's subjective, but was it the assumption that the association was eager about this extension because they understood the circumstances?
I'm sorry, I'm not understanding your question.
Could somebody say, a rational person say, that the associations are eager about the extension as it affords them more time to go about doing this comprehensively?
Sure.
Okay. I can't imagine they would drag their feet, given that I haven't heard yet any pushback on extension. And so you mentioned in your comments that it was an assumption that they could not meet the deadline. The hope would be, though, given the magnitude of the document that's before us today, that assumption would be just that, an assumption. I hear you, but that's sort of why I'm doing it right now, because you know, as good as I do, that to do a resolution is going to take more time.
But if we extend the current one, we would literally have a year to do a resolution.
But, well, I mean, we wouldn't, because we would be starting to prepare.
In February.
for-
No, we
If
wouldn't.
we didn't extend
Right.
the current one, if we did, then we would prepare in February of 2027.
Well, I can tell you candidly, if I thought that there wasn't energy to extend, I wouldn't have wasted my time putting a motion together.
I'm sorry, say that again.
That if I thought there wasn't potential energy to extend by us as a council, sometimes you just got to read the room. I see it, I sense it. So that's why I took the path that I did to put the motion together with the assumption that it was going to pass. So that's why I'm doing it at this period. I hear you, but it's germane, and that's why we are where we are.
Hold on. As soon as he's through. Are you through, Mr. Gonzalez? Or do
Yes, but
you like a moment to
Are you-
contemplate?
But are you thinking the argument is that we don't want to extend? Or that, 'cause I think both parties want to extend, but if a single member of either of the associations doesn't like where we put a comma and then has this same discussion amongst their associations and
Then it would come back
changes the
to you.
location of a single comma, then it comes back to us.
But
And
do
then we're
you
like, no, we
have-
want it over here instead. And we're gonna be negotiating
Right.
terms for something that's gonna happen in a year, when in reality, we could extend what we already agreed to and negotiate these terms over the next year before we actually go into negotiations.
Again, I hear the hyperbole, I do. But if that so happens, with the exception of the public comment period, that doesn't have precedent. What was just told to us today is there is precedent for the things that I'm proposing.
Right, and
So,
so
if-
the public
if
comment
they-
period is what the
One second, though, I would like to
association
reclaim my
would be
time.
answerable.
If they do reach a period where they perhaps have issues with it, it would come back within the time frame. We still have remaining meetings in this year prior to that date.
Right.
So,
Could can I provide some?
Wait, Mr. Scott was
Yeah.
next.
Okay, well, whenever I come back around,
You'll
it's
be next.
direct follow-up to Lorenzo's comment.
Are
You want to do
sure?
that first?
Okay, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Okay, so I feel like you are just like I understand where you're coming from, Lorenzo, like you're trying to anticipate pushback or some type of energy from the association. And I mean, this is also me making an assumption with what I'm about to say, but it's kind of based on information that I don't think you are privy to, and I don't think Councilwoman Rodriguez even has access to it. I did find, however, that I sent all this information to Matthew when he first came in. So I just want to provide like brief context for the public, for new council members, and for our new HR director. Like from reviewing correspondence going back to 2021, which I started in 2020, I think it was clear that there wasn't like bad intention. It was just like an information and understanding gap across all stakeholders. Like if you go back and you see all the emails that you don't have, and like, I'm sorry, I didn't think to forward them to either of you, but they have really good HR and former Director of Safety, Chase Staff, put together memos and survey summaries to help council understand the entire process. They were super helpful for us. That was from 2021 to 2023, and he was working in conjunction with the associations, even within the context of some very stressful community conversations around police accountability, right? However, that information did not consistently make it into the public, which is where the frustration and confusion grew, and it ended up in 2023 for the ballot initiative, right, to repeal the contract. So community members like pushed for public visibility into the process. And just to highlight what City Manager Reyes said earlier, when those portions of these meetings were open, like the world didn't end. I think it helped like build understanding and trust. And from what I remember, and we know that I'm pretty critical of policing, but from what I remember, that opening it up to the public and having, and we did it real fast. Like I think y'all came up with a great solution at that time to meet the moment where we were at, right? It's like, okay, we're gonna open this up, we're gonna record it, whatever. But I think we all learn from each other. I think the viewers at home learn from each other. I appreciated the energy that came from the police association because they, instead of being like abrasive or offensive, they leaned into, okay, we're gonna have like an open conversation. So I just wanted to share that. Like, I don't know, again, you're making assumptions, I'm making assumptions, but I think that transparency made the process better for us. 2021 forward, when we got all these really awesome memos internally, and then 2023 forward, when we started walking towards this. So I just share that with you because I know not everybody was like glued to the news or the online commentary during that time. But I honestly didn't push back on the temporary extension and all of that because I feel like we are at a place where we're all on the same page that we want to have more transparent, open conversations that we like learn from each other. But that's just the vibe I'm getting. I could also just be delusional. And I'm also not trying to paint it rainbows and butterflies because it's serious conversation, but I feel like we've all, up to this point, we have been able to hold it together. So I'm not like super concerned that this would be like a shock or a surprise or that the police association would be opposed to it. But that's just me. I don't know. I guess ask them if they're upset about commas.
And it would be police and fire, correct?
Yeah. I mean, poor fire, man. I mean, they're,
Yeah, we're on fire right now, but
Yeah.
this is for both.
yes. Shout out. I like them both. Okay, it's fine. I don't have favorites. I do have favorites.
Mr. Scott?
I'm on the opposite end. I just don't see it.
Hombre, Shane, I'm leaving.
I think it's overreaching. I think it's unnecessary. I think that we pay the city manager a good amount of money to actually handle these situations for us, so we don't have to. I'm just not sure, out of all the meetings I've been to, what good public comment would do for this type of application. I don't see it, but.
Shane, go back and watch the meetings. It was good stuff.
Yeah, but she's already doing that, though. I mean, she's already providing that to the community. She's already making it public for everybody that wants to be part of it. So I just don't think adding these nanny state rules to it, helps the process, and it's just too overreaching for me. But I hear you, though.
Councilmember Scott, I just have a quick question for you. I hear you. You know, we sit on a dais where we're public facing. And the reason for that, the reason for the public meetings, is because we make decisions that affect the people that live in this city. The onus is on us to sit there and accurately depict what business it is that we're doing, understanding that oftentimes it has a fiscal component attached to it, similar to our budgetary proceedings as well. It has already been said today that the city may not be spending money the way we should be spending, and whether that's a valid concern or not is to be discussed at a later date. But in order to hopefully, you're not gonna avoid it all completely, but in order to hopefully avoid even the thought, even the accusation, that's why we do things like this. These agreements aren't just disciplinary and those things. There is a significant financial component attached to this that we bring up and are likely going to continue to bring up every budgetary cycle. The public deserves to know how their money is going to be potentially spent.
A lot of money.
That is the rationale. Whether we feel the same on policing as an institution or whatever, that's not under discussion. This is a financial decision that we're making, meaning it's the people's dollars that we're sitting here and trying to allocate. So that's where I'm coming from and the need for public. It's not to be big government. There's a lot of discretionary language inside this amendment, and I did so intentionally because I wasn't trying to sit here and do a blanket council decision over something that we're not sitting in intimately. So I could have really wrote it to be so stringent as to, hey, down to the T. But there's a ton of discretionary language in here. So I hear you, but.
I hear you, I just don't agree with you.
Well, I'm not saying it to get you to agree.
Yeah, but, oh, I'm sorry, Mayor, I had a clarifying question for Shane. So you're fine with it in practice, just not codified? Because you said, well, it's fine, they're already doing it, you just don't want.
Yeah, I mean, you're already making the point that they're already making it public, as much public, more so than they did before. So it's apparently on the right road. I don't think that forcing them to do it without just people's desire to want to hear it is the way to go about it. I don't think throwing rules out there just to do it.
I mean, we did that but that's our whole job.
Well, I want to cautious us on using the terminology of forcing. As it was already mentioned, this is still subject to whether or not the associations agree on it. And I will say, and maybe to the surprise of some, both association presidents have been open and public with me to even sit there and have conversation and negotiation. So I would hope that the energy that they afford me would be afforded to the citizens in which they represent. So again, I hear you, but this is going to still reach their desks. If they decide, and hey, it's too much, then we come back and we address it then.
I hear you.
I hear you, but I don't agree with things.
There's that.
Okay, at this point, I'm going to ask you if we have this formalized to where you're happy with it, and did you want to withdraw and restate?
Yes, ma'am.
a
Before I
motion to amend?
rescind the amendment, I will say I want to give my colleagues any final opportunities to further amend. I mean, I'm given that I gave you this at the last minute. But if not,
Okay,
hearing none, I can.
let me go ahead and throw in my comment now then.
Okay.
And that is, assuming that there will be an extension, at least by us, the offer of an extension, why do we need to do this today?
Why not? Again,
I'll address that in a
it's
second.
germane. Number one is.
That's a good question.
Germane is number one, my rationale. Number two, though, is given the time constraints. Again, I said it earlier. We know the procedure to bring a resolution. It is timely. It is going to take time. I would rather take the opportunity to do something today, give the associations the time to comment on it, versus a resolution that we as a council are just deciding universally. This is allowing them the opportunity to have discourse over it as well.
Okay, but don't we have a year? if we extend?
Well, based on that logic, you know, some could say, if we had a year, do we really need to extend? But again, I said I'm amenable to extend.
Okay. Here's my thought, is editing something like this important, on the fly, sometimes doesn't bode well. I personally am still concerned about the public comment and what those rules would be, and what that's going to do, how that's going to affect the actual negotiations that can be 4 hours. I can be with you that let people come speak their piece, but for me, it would need to be at a separate time. That could be, then it's made available. I would also suggest that we have an email address that people could email their comments also. They could do both if they want. But without all of that, all these rules in place, I can't go with this the way that it is, even with the changes.
Well, like I said, I think given that, granted, we're still under the motion that we're talking on, I'm going to rescind, but while we're on it, if it is the intent of the council to have what you're discussing, again, I was just, not to belabor the point, I was leaving discretion based on whomever decides. In this case, it's city manager and appropriate city staff. If we want to explicitly say on this dais today that the intent is a 30-minute, 1 hour, whatever it is, then that is our ability to do so. So I don't think it means that we need to further chop it up, but I was trying to give discretion versus us just coming up with a number off the top of our head. If it is also the intent to ensure that, you know, public comment can be submitted via whatever, that is something we can explicitly say to as the intent, and I would happily do it as the person bringing the motion forward. But I know we have other business, so.
Yeah, we do. Okay, let me let you do what you need to do
I
at
want to
this
make a
point.
motion to rescind the amendment before us currently.
Are
And
you
then
okay
with
that, Ms.
that,
Garza?
Absolutely not. Yeah.
are you being facetious? Oh.
Okay.
Okay. I move to amend to make our approval subject to the following.
Oh, can I ask a question real quick?
Yes, ma'am.
Is your intent that this be part of the ground rules? That this be what we're proposing as part of the ground rules?
Well, it sounds like that's a separate deliberative process, but if it
Okay.
influences, I mean, this is subject, that's why I'm using the language to make our approval subject to the following.
I get that, but they do have ground rules. And I'm not comfortable with there being another rule that's over here that's not part
Conflicting?
of, well, maybe not conflicting, but just, oh, wait a minute, I was looking here, we also have this other rule that we need to abide by. And this is a pretty important one with a lot of ramifications.
Sure, and it sounded like the ground rules during that deliberative process are where both sides get an opportunity to agree on a set of terms.
Correct.
And so, given that this is following the same process, I would imagine that would probably go over into the ground rules that are later discussed.
Ms. Reyes, is that what you're thinking would come out of this? That this would go into be part of the ground rules, or that's what we would ask would go into when we provide our input into the ground rules?
Yes, not knowing, I mean, that's, and not having
It's-
talked
it's-
with them, but yes.
Well, the ground rules are, how are you going to conduct negotiations?
Right.
And that's basically saying, we're agreeing to
I
it.
don't see
And-
how this can't be part of the ground rule.
And
I'll
it
be
would,
with you in a minute.
but it would probably be a little more concrete, because I would want to work with them on what are the ground rules that they could live with.
I know that,
To give them
I
that
understand that. That's why I
piece of
said
that.
this would be the ground rules that we would propose.
Yeah, because some of it may be stuff that, and so I appreciate having some discretion in there so that we can work through what they're comfortable with also.
Yeah.
In terms of how much time and all that. I just wanted to make sure that it's clear with mayor and council and anybody who would choose to come and speak at these, just what those expectations, that not to expect that it's
Yeah.
gonna be a thing like interacting and dialogue and putting what happens at the podium. And so
Well, with
that's just.
citizen comment, we don't interact in dialogue and Q&A. So, okay. Let me let
Real
Mr.
quick,
O'Brien-
just
oh,
to
go ahead.
follow on that.
Go ahead.
In the second sentence, when we talk about subject to established procedural rules, that's, let's say this is the starting point. when they get into the actual ground rules, I imagine y'all discuss things far outside of this as well, though. Is that not the
Yes.
case?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yes, yeah.
So, you know, it still gives room for when that process is open. Okay, then you can get into the nuances and, you know, minutia of the actual policy, of the rules itself. It's meant to be a starting place more than anything.
Let me go to Mr. Lorenzo
For sure. I just
Gonzalez,
wanted
and
to-
then we'll get back to what you're trying to do, and I didn't let you finish, so
It's
my
okay, ma'am.
apologies.
So I have several different questions about like what the legal implications of this would be, but based on that, like basically ground rules could change things. The way I'm reading this is like, the condition of the extension is that all of this. But then in theory, when they actually sit down and do the ground rules, one of the rules they could agree to is everything that was in there, forget all of that, we're not gonna do any of this. And as long as both parties agree to that ground rule, it essentially undoes all of this.
And it-
How, though?
And it is two separate, what I would say is it's two separate things. So you've got the extender, which, and Lindsay and Sam, help me with this if I'm saying this incorrectly, please correct me. But it's two separate things. You have the meet and confer agreements for each association. The ground rules are a totally separate document. They're not necessarily part of the formal agreement.
That's correct.
Tonight, what's being contemplated is the formal agreements themselves. So I get the amendment part of this, but how is that incorporated into something that is a completely different document? Just to make sure procedurally that we get that right in terms of guiding council about how
And
they
if I
do
can
that.
make my question, I guess, more exaggerate and blunt. In theory, can either party, a year from now or whenever we're setting the ground rules for negotiations, make one of the ground rules, we will not have public comment. And as long as both parties agree to it, this gets undone.
So
Like, could that theoretically happen?
I couldn't agree to that if that's not what this, if y'all give this to me, I couldn't agree to that on our side.
Because
No.
y'all are our representatives in
Correct.
this discussion. You are
Correct.
representing the body.
But also, a year from now, it could possibly be a different body that might not agree to
that,
this.
that's correct.
It could
But-
be a different body that doesn't agree with transparency, absolutely. You just
And they
never
can
know.
bring the item back?
Councils always have the ability to override prior decisions of a council. That just goes without saying. This council can override a previous council and so
Right.
forth. But one of the questions I had, because it's unorthodox, right? Because this is essentially a ground rule for negotiations. And so the statute has a specific process. What the council can't do is alter something that's, I suppose, in the process, but if the parties all agree to it, that's fine. But what I was trying to understand, you had mentioned the Austin model. Was that based on ground rules established through the groups negotiating, or did the city council say these are the conditions under which we are going to enter into meet and confer?
Yes, and I guess
Wait,
Austin
He did an
has
or, and you said yes, and I don't know if you're saying yes to the first half or the second half.
the second half, the latter. I think that was the duration in which you asked it. The biggest difference, though, is that when they did it, they also included, which is not applicable to us as a city, to all labor unions. They have a labor union within their city, so it was done at the or at the beginning of all of what was about to come for both of those entities going forward. So,
So
Did
it's, another way of looking at it is, you are directing the participants in the process, which would be the city manager and the group she listed, to abide by these terms. It's kind of like providing direction. But again, it would be the, same with the association, saying, representatives, when you get to those meetings, one of the ground rules is gonna have to include that. I mean, that's your approval. So, yes, it's an amendment, but this amendment is forming the basis of the negotiations for the actual meet and confer agreement, so.
yes.
And what was actually my initial question, kind of to what you just said, that future councils could always undo what prior councils did. As it's worded here, the city will require all meet and confer contract negotiations between the city and public safety employees, so on and so forth. So as I'm reading it, that would mean in perpetuity for the existence of the city of San Marcos and/or Public Safety Association and meet and confer. But it is a condition of something that expires in a year. So how would that work if 10 years from now, a council wants to undo this, but it's in something that essentially already expired, but we've, as I'm reading it, have tied councils in perpetuity to this because we're saying all meet and confer contract negotiations between the city and public service.
That could be fixed by stating that,
But also,
I think it's probably highly unlikely, but if you, to be fair, the literal reading is, says all meet and confer. It could say the meet and confer contract negotiations for the 2020, whatever, 27 or whatever contract.
I mean, if
You
we
know,
want to get
you
into
could narrow it.
if we want to get into the semantics of a time frame, I'm not against that. But I think to say that something is in perpetuity when what we're doing is not proposing a charter amendment, any ordinance can sit there, or any decision by council, a future council can sit there and say, no. That is still their
Right.
prerogative
But my
and
question
their
to our legal
authority.
counsel is how would the city council of 2035 say no to an amendment for a one-year extension back in 2025? Like, how can a future council actually undo this if this is an amendment to an agreement to something that, in my situation, expired 9 years ago?
Well,
Like,
this.
what would be the
a
legal
couple
framework
things.
to undo this? 10
This
years from
actually
now?
isn't amending the contract. It's really, and I'm using just the practical effect of it. The practical effect of it is it's directing your team to follow these rules, assuming that the association will do the same. But I think it's a fair point that for the avoidance of doubt, I think you may as well say it's for the meet and confer contract negotiations for this year. If,
But they're
But
going to be
it's-
negotiating.
For the next one.
It's not, and that, I think that's the confusion that I have, Sam, and not trying to be dense, but that's the confusion I have, is because this is just extending the current contract to which the ground rules are not a part of
But
the
it-
agreement. This is setting the ground rules for future negotiations that we would have in a year from now, which is a totally separate document that we're contemplating today. So that's the only, not we,
No,
but
I
councilors.
understand.
So that's where I'm a little fuzzy in terms of procedurally how
well,
that works.
okay, so this is either you could call it a problem or the actual intent. My understanding is this is setting the ground rule. It's not about the extension. It's saying, we're going to agree the extension subject to these ground rules for the actual negotiations of the meet and confer agreement, is how I've interpreted that. So that is the intent. And so I guess council has to decide, do they want to reach down to that level or leave it to the group
I
that
would have
normally
been-
negotiates?
I would have been more comfortable if this were on the council as a separate item, and we were talking about this separately and not tagging it on to the extension.
Which essentially has been my point all along. I feel uncomfortable making a condition of a current contract terms of a future contract or the negotiations of a future contract.
Because it really is tantamount to, it's directing, as I read it, and Councilmember, let me know if I'm misreading it, but I see it as, it is directing that the actual meet and confer negotiations will be open to the public, allow citizen comment, provide documents and so forth.
Yes, I never
And-
had the intent.
And it's the council to debate the merits, but that's how I'm reading it, is what will actually happen. So if there's, and if you have
that's
concerns, then
not
we
what's
need to
on
address it.
Today, and that's the only thing I'm
That's what I
trying to.
mean. What's on our agenda today is extending this contract. This is about the next contract. So
But that would be an argument that the motion itself is not germane. Is that what we're saying?
I don't think I wouldn't view it as that way, because the point being is you have a contract amendment available today, an extension. And you're saying, well, I'll agree to it, subject to these conditions.
Yeah,
So
that's
I
what
think
I'm saying.
that, I think that's not an
Which is
out of
right.
order type of amendment.
Yes.
It's really the policy debate, whether council members feel that's an appropriate mechanism, and that's really for the council discretion, and the membership as well is gonna have to
Yeah.
vote on it.
I mean, personally, I don't think the timing, I mean, like, why not? It seems like everybody's like vibing with it, except for Shane. But like, we like transparency. We're going in the right direction. We could just like get it over with now. I don't know. Like, we could, you know, like, I don't understand the problem of lumping it together.
Yeah, and really, you know, I just for the sake of the public and to be honest with my colleagues, I don't think it was any surprise. I had initial hesitations about the extension, and significant. But I took the time to listen to the rationale, sat with it, and I understood it, which is why I didn't necessarily advocate for people to come and speak against it. This was, though, me in good faith, also working with y'all, knowing that I read the room and saw the extension, and I'm just asking for transparency. Like, let's reduce it down to what it is. It's transparency. And I thought that that was the purpose of government.
Yes, but this is transparency for the next one,
But it's
not
all-
what's on the agenda for me to vote on tonight.
It's all connected, and I feel like it is a good show of respect, and that we heard our neighbors, especially after 2023, that we are adding this in as a condition of approving the extension, because I feel like otherwise the vibe is, we were around in 2023, we saw the amount of community feedback, we saw the amount of people participating in all sides, and we still decided to bring forward and vote on a extension of a contract that was the source of all this community conversation without making it more of an effort to publicly bring in our neighbors so that they know that this is happening, right? And so for me, the balance is, yes, you guys, yes, community, we are doing this right now because we're up against the clock. We just finished budget, we just saw numbers, like we had to pivot and all of that. And sorry, like, that's just the reality of what we're experiencing right now. But to show that we saw them, we heard them, and again, this is folks from all sides, because I do think it's a disservice to our community that we didn't amplify this, like, further. Because I think that people from all sides might have strong feelings and opinions about it, right? For me, this is like trying to remedy that or trying to balance that out. Like, sorry, community, we're up against a timeline, we have to make this decision, but just to show that we heard you, we're adding this in there. Does that make sense? Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I feel like
On that
that's
though-
it. It's like not that deep.
On
No,
that,
I get where you're going.
and just real quick, out of curiosity, can my colleagues raise their hand who was here in '23 when that was happening? Okay, so y'all were aware, I mean, I was a part of it on the other side of things, but y'all were aware of the massive amount of people that provided input and all of the other stuff. So yes, to her point, the hope is that this is sort of meeting our residents in the middle too, right? You had people who signed a ballot initiative who said they wanted it gone altogether. So this is really more of a concession than anything, to sit here and continue working, but also ensuring that we're doing it publicly.
Right.
And we're not repeating the patterns that led to y'all sitting in council hearings for hours upon end,
Right.
alleging that you were acting in an untransparent way. I know y'all remember
Right.
that.
Yeah.
So, you know,
Yeah.
that's where it's coming from.
And for me, it's the message that we're giving to people from all sides, because I do know that we had people on all sides of that conversation, people who were like, I don't really agree with, this organization, but like, I kind of agree with this or that, and some people who are diehard one side or the other. None of those people, or the majority of those people, regardless of where they land on, they probably don't know we're talking about this tonight.
Yeah.
But I also get it, like, we just finished budget, the numbers are scary. We want to meet our safety, our first responders halfway too, like they, have some job stability, have some, just knowing that we are trying to balance it all. I feel like this is meeting everybody's needs, but I don't know, maybe I Maybe I'm just too medicated and I don't know.
And the thing that I want to understand, Sam, so if council's putting a condition, this is the procedural, because this is unprecedented, I don't know, so I'm asking just purely to understand. But if council's not putting anything on the extender, and they approve the extender, then that's really just, that moves forward. If the associations are not for the ground rules, which we're not taking up the ground rules now, the ground rules aren't gonna be taken up until we get into full negotiations a year later, then I guess if we get to an impasse on the ground rules, then we come back to mayor and council?
Well, here, this is the problem. I don't know, and I haven't been involved in the past. I'm not aware of any situation where the people other than the committee, or I want to call it the committee, but the negotiating teams develop the ground rules. I don't know that they've typically been established by the city council. If I'm mistaken, you
Because
let me know. But,
I remember that the ground rules say specifically the associations cannot speak with mayor and council about meet and confer
Right.
during the negotiation process. So
And
it's the
so-
anti-lobbying clause that they're not supposed to speak with mayor and council during that.
But is it individually or like as a caucus?
No, they're not supposed to speak to individuals.
So,
They
going back to
can
your.
speak with you about other business, they can't speak with you about the negotiations.
And so here's the thing. This is not a contract term, but when you have a resolution of the council and a resolution of the association that's very specific, if they violate that resolution and take other actions, those actions are unenforceable against the other party, right? It's kind of like when the city asks for corporate resolutions, because somebody can come to the city saying they're authorized to sell property, for example. And then we look at their resolution and it has limitations and they violated the resolution, so they didn't have authority. So the way I'm looking at this here is it's the city council directing the team to stick to these rules, to include them in the ground rules.
But
So
that's
which
not
is
till the
unorthodox.
next- That's not till the next negotiation.
No,
So today.
and I understand
If mayor and
that.
council, just to make sure I'm clear, Sam, so if mayor and council vote however they vote on the extender, and for argument's sake, it passes. So the association has approved the extender, mayor and council have approved the extender, we move forward with the extender. There would be the understanding that mayor and council are asking for this with the ground rules. When it comes to, assuming this passes, then assuming when we get into the ground rules, we won't be agreeing to ground rules until a year from now.
That's correct.
And so at that time, if they were to come to an impasse and say, hey, we're not for this, then we're just in a situation of me coming back to mayor and council and saying, we put this forward, these are the things y'all asked for, we're at an impasse, they're saying no, how do we want to proceed from that particular juncture? So procedurally, is that the way?
You would almost have to, because
would work?
basically
Yes.
you're
That's the intent.
subject to the wrath of
Because
the
again, it still
council, so
gives
to
them the
speak.
opportunity to provide that input. But that's what
However,
I'm not trying to take away.
Okay.
There's
Okay,
still a
but
problem
what does
here.
it
Can I-
do to the
real quickly,
extender?
if I
Hold
could-
on, Mr. Gonzalez.
real
What does
quick.
it do to the extender?
It's a problem if it's only, the way this is proposed,
Mm-hmm.
I don't see how we can move forward without the association agreeing to it now, because you're saying that the only way we're agreeing to this extender is under these conditions. So it creates that issue. I don't see
But
how.
that's
it
not what I
can-
just heard Councilmember Rodriguez's intent, and I don't know if I heard
Well, I
that
understand
wrong.
intent, but I don't see how we can make our approval conditioned on this, and then the association doesn't agree to it. We're saying that this is the condition under which
The
the
extender moves
extender will
forward.
be granted. So I would say that the association has to agree to it. Now, there's a different approach is,
What do you mean, they have to agree to it, or they have to agree to it in order for the extender to be effective? They
That's
don't have to
correct.
agree to it.
That's correct. Now, the other way to do this, but I know this is not what is desired by the council member, but is we're asking the city manager at the time of negotiations to request these things. But that is kind of weak in terms of what your intention is. But that's another way to do it. But I think as written, the only way you could move that extender forward is that mutual approval of the association.
That's what I've been worried about, is,
Do we feel comfortable with, upon,
Commencement of
upon
negotiations.
extension or upon a decision to extend, something that doesn't tie them together can still be done today, but at least establishes, because I know when when this stuff starts getting, we're done. Like, it's into a private area, our ability to influence it is over, right? I get that. You're saying that we can suddenly sit in these meetings and be?
No, but.
That's her.
So this is what happens, is that ahead of a full negotiation, I would normally come to mayor and council in an executive session, and I would ask mayor and council what things that you want to include in that agreement. And so at that particular time, like the things that you want us to go and bargain for, or things that, it could be a ground rule, it could be any of those things, but that's the time at which I could. Now, if the council wants to do this now, there could be language that said upon commencement of full negotiations, comma, and then get into whatever the language is of what your conditions are.
I'm fine with
Because then
that.
it's not an extender, it's not conditioned on the extender, but it's getting that out there. I don't know if that's
I'm
amenable
fine
to
with
you.
that.
But the problem I have with that, just as a practical matter, the agenda item tonight is approval of this one-year extender. We're not agendized to just take a separate action dealing with the meet and confer negotiations later. It is, I just think based on the posting, it has to be, if you want to move forward on this at all, it has to be tied to the extender, or the council decides tonight that to take this up as a separate item at a future meeting.
next meeting or something.
Which is a whole other
and I just-
discussion that we would sit through.
Or
That's
it's
why I'm
ahead
doing
of
it
the
now.
next negotiation process.
I mean, the reason I didn't get into the actual minutia of the agreement is because I knew that that would be forthcoming. Could have done that, I didn't want to do it, I didn't feel like it was a time. This was just, hey, to get started, here is what it is. I don't think it's as consequential as we're making it to be. I truly think it's an issue of transparency, and you as members have the ability to say, I'm for it, I'm against transparency. That's your prerogative. I respect it. So I'm just coming right now because it's germane to the issue right now. I literally, like I said, I'm not sitting here getting up here and I'm like, anti-extension, I'm working with y'all.
I think, my last comment is I can't vote on an extender absent something that shows our neighbors we are serious on continuing the progress of transparency, even though we did not publicly advertise this conversation. Like, I want my neighbors to know that we didn't include them in this decision for this extender because we are up against unique and unanticipated factors where we have to balance public safety and the budget and future conversations about the blow EMS is gonna have to our budget. And does that make sense? Like, that's where I'm at. And that's, I think, me meeting folks halfway, but
So at the moment, I'm just trying to, for my own benefit, is there an actual motion and second on the floor right now that was revised? There was a second to the modified language?
Yeah, I rescinded the initial one and then recalled it up with this modified language.
Okay.
and then-
Substituted with this, you're still
And then she
seconding, right?
seconded.
yeah.
So since my colleague brought it up, I am questioning the germaneness of this, because as I'm reading it or understanding it, we're making a condition of one contract that they pre-agree to conditions to a theoretical possible future contract. Because there's also the possibility that a year from now, we don't enter into meet and confer, and there isn't actually a future contract to tie these terms to. So is it germane to make a condition of one contract pre-agreeing to terms of a potential future contract.
Yes, in just as a pure technical matter, you can, because it all relates to this all relates to the future negotiation of the meet and confer contract. That is, in the extender, the basis for the extenders to get to that contract. And so we're saying we don't have to approve the extender.
We don't.
But if we approve it, this is what we're insisting upon. So I think it's germane legally. Now, in terms of your policy decisions, and you like it
Can-
as an idea, that's to the
Can I
up to the council.
suggest that we do this? Postpone both of the extenders until the next meeting. Agendize this, put it on before the vote on the extenders, and this way it's out there for the public to comment on. I'm not, talk about transparency. It's not transparent to be having all of this conversation when extender was what was on the agenda. I think the public should see what it is that we're doing here.
I'm not necessarily opposed, but not to sound like I'm advocating on behalf of the associations, but maybe I am with the comment I'm about to make. Doing it today allows them more time to look at this language and come back with something. I'm not trying, the intent was never to continue to push it down the line to where we get to the point of potentially making it lapse. That was not the intent.
Oh, I didn't think so.
I hear you, but the hyperbole earlier was that, oh, if we do this today, it's gonna already delay it. Something in the future would further delay it under that same argument.
Yeah.
So, that is not something that that was the intent of this.
Can it say, and that's where Sam, could it say, if the mayor and council decide that they want to move forward with this language, upon commencement of future meet and confer negotiations, then have what this is. The only other thing, I like that there's discretionary stuff in here, because then, again, if the associations don't agree to the ground rules, I'm coming back to mayor and council when we start negotiations a year from now to say, hey, we're at an impasse on these ground rules, and I need some direction about where we go. So at least the intent is there. So could that be something where it's, again, the intent is recorded in this meeting, it's still tied to the extender in terms of what they're willing to consider. This language has to go along with it, but that's their condition in terms of doing this extender. Without having without it changing the terms of the association approval of the agreement.
Well, I guess the problem I'm having still is when you say upon commencement of the negotiations.
Of the meet and confer negotiations,
Yes.
because this is not meet and confer.
And I'm going to ask, do you mean commencement is the beginning or the end?
Beginning.
Beginning.
So,
Okay.
but here's the problem. We're still saying, okay, at the start of meet and confer, we're asking for all these things. So it's still saying your approval of the extender is saying that we want these conditions when you start the negotiation.
And that's fine.
And but the association,
But the association can say no. And then if they say no at the start of those negotiations, then I'm coming back to mayor and council and saying they said no.
right, but it doesn't say that now. It says that this is the condition under which we are approving the extender. So to get to where you want to be, I really think you would have to say, we are asking the city manager to negotiate for that. Then that is tantamount to direction. We're going
Right.
to approve the extender, subject to direction to you, but without a guarantee from the association and without a need for them to approve. So that's
Right, that we're
the
going to
difference.
ask for this, but it doesn't have to be agreed to.
That's exactly right.
Okay, Mr. Gonzalez
I
has
have a
something else to
clarifying
say.
question. Where exactly in the resolution would this amendment go?
It doesn't.
Good question.
Like,
How we would.
because I have a follow-up question with it based on what I'm seeing on the resolution. Like, could we pull up the resolution?
What we would do is we have, like we typically do, our resolutions say,
Part four.
we hereby authorize city manager, we approve the agreement, we authorize city manager to execute it. This approval, we would have another paragraph, this approval is subject to the following conditions. So what we typically do is, if we get direction in a council meeting, I work with the clerk and city manager to revise the resolution, and then the mayor signs it to reflect the record from the meeting.
Because essentially, well, my question, because as it's written here, part one is the attached memorandum of understanding with San Marcos Fires Association, Local 3963 is hereby approved. Part two is the city manager or her designee is hereby authorized to execute said memorandum of understanding on behalf of the city. If rather than putting in essentially a fourth part, because there's a third part here, we modified part two to where the city manager or her designee's authorization is subject to all of this stuff, but not the approval of the attached memorandum is subject to all of this stuff. We're essentially putting all these terms on the city manager without actually affecting our agreement with the Firefighters Association.
Sort of, but not completely, because you're saying the only way she can sign it is if those conditions are met. So it's either, you're saying you want those conditions in there, and otherwise, if they're not, she can't sign it. Or alternatively, you say, the city manager may sign subject to her requesting these conditions.
To proposing these
Yeah.
ground rules
These
or
conditions,
something.
when the ground rules are proposed during formal meet and
So there's
confer
a big difference.
negotiations.
One is, hey, we're gonna ask,
So before we
other
go down
is-
that road,
Wait, can I hear that response, please?
would you be amenable to that, though?
Wait, can I hear his response though real quick before I answer that question?
no, I'm just saying, and I'm going just back to as written. I don't think there's any way around getting the association to approve it and any way around the city manager not being able to sign it unless she gets those terms, even if we word it as you've provided. On the other hand, if you said, we're asking the city manager to seek these things,
Right.
but at the end of the day, it's not going to delay. So she can ask, right, at the time of the meet and confer. And you would follow your normal process and see where y'all land with the ground rules. And again, it's up to council.
So follow-up question. Can we change it to that, like we're directing the city manager to ask for all of these things, but if it's not agreed to at that point, then before moving forward come back to mayor and council, and that way we're not changing the agreement. So, because earlier you said we can't really agree to this, but also separately give direction to the city manager, do this other thing, because we're not agendized for that. So what I'm essentially trying to do is find a gray area where we can do two different things.
Mr. Gonzalez, do you have a motion to amend the amendment? Is that what you're trying to propose?
Well, first I'm wondering if my potential motion would even be legally sound before I make that motion.
Because Sam, is there a way that the resolution is again asking, mayor and council is asking me upon the start of formal negotiations for a full contract term, so not an extender, that I would request these things be included in the ground rules?
Right, that you'll request. You can't
Subject to
guarantee.
approval of the association.
And if the association
Well, you
doesn't
don't even have to
approve,
say
Requesting it
that.
to go on the ground rules, your general process for the ground rules is you both have to agree, right?
Exactly.
So you don't even have to say subject
Yeah,
to.
you don't even have to do that.
So strike that last part, but we know it's subject to the approval of the association. Mutual agreement, not just their approval, but
And
it's
it-
mutual agreement.
And the way we're agendized allows that, because, again, we're talking about a condition to
Right.
your approval of something that is completely discretionary in the first place.
Motion to amend the amendment with that language. I'm
Tell
fine
you
with
what
that.
I'm gonna do. I'm gonna call a recess. We've been here over 90 minutes.
So close.
I'm gonna call a recess and let everybody stop and think through, let you
I'm gonna
think through
forget.
this. And we're gonna
To
come back in 5 minutes
draft.
and we're gonna conclude this.
Okay.
Because,
That's
no,
fine.
we're going to take a recess before we vote, because I still think there's some things floating around that may affect this. We're real close, but I don't think we're there yet. And I will tell you, I'm not signing this resolution until we get it cleared up as exactly where it's gonna be. Is it gonna be part of Part 1? Exactly how it's gonna go in here.
Mayor, I'm fine
I
with
can
that.
tell you that now.
I'm fine with that.
So,
I'm not opposed to it.
with
City manager
adding
and
a
I
part
could-
that
let's
we're
work
going
on
to
No, I'm saying
direct her
on the word
to
Yeah,
make
yeah,
this
yeah.
request.
Yeah, I'm fine
Put
with
it
that.
on
I'm
the
saying
screen.
I'm not opposed to a recess to accomplish that.
We're gonna take a 5-minute recess. It's 7:47.
Yeah, let Sam and I
You got till 7:53.
I just don't.
From our break, it is now 8 o'clock, and we are back to, Mr. Aguirre has a proposal as to exactly where this is going to go into the resolution, because we need that. And that's really what we're voting on, is your amendment, but where it goes. And so we will look at that, and then there's another couple of things that we need to address.
Right, so, apologies, Mayor.
They'll get it on the screen in a
I emailed this
moment.
to get up on the screen, so it may take a couple of minutes for,
Yeah,
to,
to the video.
but, so there's two things happening is,
There we go.
you're gonna make a motion that's basically directing the city manager to request certain things. The way I put it into the
Could
resolution.
we have this larger on the screen, please? And- Okay, thank you.
Can council read that? And I can read it out loud if the council.
I think,
Please,
read
just
it in
in
the
case
record.
somebody can't.
All right. So, the resolution, Part 1, we've made an addition. It started as the attached memorandum of understanding with the San Marcos Firefighters Association, Local 3963, boy, I might need glasses, is hereby approved, and the addition
on your
is,
screen.
comma, subject to the city manager requesting that the attached terms and conditions be considered for inclusion in the ground rules governing the 2027 meet and confer agreement negotiations at the beginning of the negotiation process. That's when she would ask for it. Part 2 is just a technical part. We're saying, subject to those things, the city manager is authorized to execute the memorandum of understanding. So that's the easy part, if council is okay with that. The hard part is coming to agreement on that language that was up on the screen earlier. That will be the attachment to this resolution as well. That way, for economy, an attachment seems to be the easiest way.
Okay. So her motion, which will get you to restate it again, is to do this, and the attachment is what we've been talking about for a while. Is that okay?
Yes, ma'am, but just for the sake of like a procedural question, because I'm unsure, was there additional amendments to the language, like recommended?
Yes, I'm working on that
Okay.
right now.
So,
and then I'm
Mayor,
Let's
do we-
wait.
yeah.
Let's kick it around a little bit, and then you can formalize and, yeah, that's a good idea. So if we can go back to the terms and conditions as provided by Ms. Rodriguez, if we could go back to that document.
And I'm gonna send them something else, because I'm writing it up right now. I'm using hers, and I'm making a couple of changes, and I'll walk you through those.
Well, I will fill some time and say I'm for the transparency, I'm for allowing people to state their piece before each session starts. I have real concerns about not knowing what whatever it is, established procedural rules are, not having those set, because I don't know what that is. And I think if we're talking about transparency, knowing what those rules are would be pretty transparent too. So that's my issue with this, is that we just don't know what that's going to be. I would hope that it might include what we talked about, a forum where people can express their views, knowing that it's being recorded for this purpose. Have an email address that people could send their comments to, that is made available to all the negotiators. I just have concerns about a long, basically citizen comment process
100%.
prior to
Yeah.
their negotiations. But I don't want to say only 10 people can talk, too.
Sure, yeah,
know?
it's a conundrum for sure. I
Okay,
think,
so I'm gonna send this to them. I just sent
For
it
the
to you.
Jumbotron?
I just sent it to you though, Amanda, because it's your, and I want to make sure you have a chance to look and see if you're
Okay, I'm pulling it
okay
up.
with what I'm.
But what you're sending to her will be on the Jumbotron
Yes,
for the
ma'am.
public?
Yes, ma'am.
oh, frick.
Okay.
I just wanted to give her,
I said
since it's
frick,
her
no.
amendment, I wanted to
Yeah.
give her the
No,
courtesy
that's
to
fine. I
look
just
at
want
it.
the public to know that what she's getting is the same thing as what we're
Yes,
going to
ma'am.
see on the
Yeah,
screen.
thank you,
Yes.
Mayor.
So I just sent it to you, Carrie and Hayden, if y'all could get that up as soon as
I
you
like that
can.
idea of the email. Like
Some
a-
people
like
are
an
just
email
more
box.
comfortable. I want to give people multiple options to do what they're most comfortable with, and if they want to do both, that's fine.
Well, I like the idea of the email because, like, one of the frustrations I have is we are not all navigating with the same historic documents, and I know as a city, we're working through that with like a shared drive. But, if there's like one email address that neighbors could be sending in their commentary.
Yes.
Then regardless of transitions, like HR transitions or
Yeah.
transitions in,
Right.
then it could all live there, you know?
Well, if we don't, people are going to be sending email to us. Sometimes they may
Right.
send it to me individually. I would need to forward it over there, and so I think having the one place for it to land would be good. Then there's no ambiguity.
Yeah, Mayor,
And
and
more
if,
transparent.
if after I, open it and we want to talk about a specific intent, we can definitely get into that as well. Can everybody see it?
When we get them to put it up, and that way if y'all want to change this any further, then y'all can change this.
Is this
Okay.
new, or is
the-
this?
the one though? I think
No.
this is the-
Carrie or Hayden, can y'all put up the,
I think this
'cause
is new.
it has
'cause-
upon the start, not both. It doesn't have.
oh, then it is. This is it.
Yep,
Yep,
this is it.
this is it.
This is the one I got emailed. Okay.
Oh, we don't have the track changes of the change.
Do we want to summarize the proposed, well, let me open it first before we get into, yeah. I move to, oh, this is going to be interesting because we changed the language and I said subject to approval. I motion to amend with the following language and the proposed revision on the screen. But
And the red text on the resolution.
yes,
Okay.
yes, thank you, Mayor.
Thank you.
And do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you.
And if the council would like, once you get that language, I can reread that language from the resolution, how it will read together,
Yeah,
if that
that's
helps.
fine. Mayor, do you want to get into intent around the actual public comment of it all and public participation aspect? Just for the sake of the record, because this is providing direction.
Go ahead and add those, the email and the public comment in a separate form. Whoa, what has just happened?
You should use them again.
So you said email. Public comments.
It might be following at the beginning or end of each meeting, not both, and then maybe the clause that you're talking about would be relevant in that section?
And we lost all the caveats about the documents.
I just made it simple by saying it's only final documents, because that was my concern, and that was
Okay.
Sam's concern, is if you're putting all the exceptions, then it would be
That's
harder.
going to confuse the public, and
Right.
people are
Yep.
going to argue about it, and it would be a mess, and
So the final documents, I think, helps to capture what we were concerned about.
Yeah, and just for the record, I'm amenable to all the changes.
shall be made publicly accessible within 24 hours.
I don't,
I wouldn't want to put too much on it, just, Maybe I'm going out on a limb to say I trust our staff to be able to do it as soon as possible.
At a reasonable
Yeah,
time?
at a reasonable time.
That would be all part of the negotiation with the association, so
Yeah.
they're gonna have to refine all of those
Yeah.
things
Yeah.
ultimately.
Mayor, but I have one
Mr. Lorenzo Gonzalez?
amendment suggestion. So the provide comment at the beginning or end of a meeting, but not both. I guess clarification, but with a possible amendment. To Councilmember Rodriguez's point earlier, some people might not get here in time to make comments at the beginning. So having a comment period at the beginning and at the end, I think is a good idea, but limit a specific person to only being able to provide one comment. So if you speak at the beginning, you can't
Well-
speak at the end, but we have 2 periods at which time you can speak.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Am I interpreting though the not both? I think that was the clarifying language that you can't participate in both.
Well, I was interpreting it as there's gonna be a public comment period, either at the beginning or at the end, but there's not gonna be 2 public comment periods.
Well, yeah. Well, let's see. So shall ensure that members of the public are afforded a reasonable opportunity to provide comment at the beginning or end of each meeting, not both. Is there a part in that language that I'm missing that isn't?
So the way I'm reading it, they can decide, we're gonna have public comment period at the beginning of each meeting. And they are meeting that, but then someone that shows up in the middle of the meeting now lost their opportunity to provide public comment because they were given an opportunity to speak at the beginning of the meeting, but just didn't get here on time.
But,
So I wanna make it clear that there are 2 public comment periods,
yeah.
but you can only speak at one or the other.
That council member is because if we set, for example, a 30-minute citizen comment period, and we do a 30-minute at the beginning, you're essentially saying that basically if we're doing 30-minute at the end, we've now extended our meeting an hour of the time that we have, because you would have to do whatever time that we're gonna put limit on both sides. So that's the only concern I have with it, is that potentially you could be, instead of just having a 30-minute for citizen comment, you're having an hour essentially that could be filled up by comment. So that's in a 4-hour time frame.
That was my concern
That's the
about,
only
and hold
thing.
on, whoever's doing the computer stuff or the screen, look at your screen, because you got something on there that you need to see. A reboot alert.
Concern I have.
Yeah, I still don't see how the comment immediately before is going to work. Okay, I also have another question in the second bullet, and that's a long sentence, where it says, "The city manager is further directed that if at any time before or during the course of meet and confer negotiations between the city and a representative," I think that should be representative of an association, of the Association for Public Safety Employees. City staff proposes to deviate from the established policy of conducting publicly accessible negotiations. City manager shall seek council authorization. Why would city staff propose to do something that you would have to come ask us about?
So I was actually cautious of even including this language, but this is actually the language directly taken from Austin's resolution. And when I was reading sort of about rationale, is that the council at that time wanted to give sort of something explicitly saying that if and when, you know, they had to meet in an executive session similar to the way we do, or there's an extenuating circumstance, that this clause gives them the discretion to do so without allegations of violating the entire policy. But again, that was honestly more for city staff and the associations to have that ability to do so.
I don't get I'm okay with what you just said, but I don't see how it relates to that sentence that I just read.
Well, the deviation, right? So the first part that we're talking about is one part of it. If they're saying that, well, you know, we get all that, but we need to deviate because of some
Some
circumstance.
extenuating circumstance.
Yeah, then this clause also accounts for that without giving them just the first one that has no opportunity to do that
Okay.
regardless.
I think I get it now.
Yeah.
Okay. This is a whole lot to digest here.
Yes, and again, y'all, I'm sorry for not sending this ahead of time. Just been very busy.
Yeah.
So happens we don't get staff?
And thank you for staff on taking the time to put this together or help further craft it. But I don't have anything else if y'all are comfortable with being ready to vote. I know we have other business.
I still can't go with it because I don't know I don't know the details. And you know me, I gotta have details.
Well, again, I just did not want to establish rules. You know, it's the conversation about big government. This still allows them to go and craft those details alongside the association. But it gives them a general scope on what it is. Now, if we want to, again, use this opportunity, since it is a recorded conversation, is part of the record, to establish intent, and you have an idea on some sort of intent, I would happily be amenable to that as well.
I'd like to add the forum before, and the email address. But still, when we're talking about somebody speaking at that meeting without knowing what those rules are, I cannot say yes to this.
I guess let me ask, what potential scenario are you concerned of? You mentioned extended period of, public comments. Is there something else that you, just off the top of your head, are concerned about?
What our council agendas used to say is our citizen comment was 30 minutes. I do not recall a time that council has ever done that and cut people off.
Yeah, yeah.
It was always, whoever was mayor would say, do we want to hear all 50 people? And the council majority would always, and probably everybody would say, yes, they're here, we're going to hear what they have to say.
Sure.
This is going to probably deviate from that, or they're going to be there for a really long time and perhaps start out the meeting with references to things that people are going, what is that? I don't even know what that is. What was that case? Who are they talking about? So you're going to have people with their brain over here when they need to be on the negotiations. That's why the forum ahead of time, let people record what they want to say for those who like to do that. Have the email address for those who wish to write and don't want to speak in public to do that. So that way, somebody can go, wait a minute, okay, let me look that up so I can come to the meeting prepared. But to do it immediately before, I just think is not going to be helpful to the cause.
And are you saying before each meeting, like you would prefer
Before?
the comments being at the end in these meetings?
No.
Or you just are saying comments in general and the time?
I don't know about after, but again, you're either going to have to hear everyone, or if you cut it off, and I would recommend limiting these to 1 minute and not allowing the 3. Because I have always firmly believed that you can say what you need to say in 1 minute, and if you have more than a minute, email it.
Well, if we want to be so explicit, meet you in the middle as to say that the intent is, I would, if you're saying a 30-minute period, 1 minute each, 30 people.
I'm not, that's, the 31st person's not gonna be happy.
Yeah, again, though,
Huh? And you're gonna start out on the opportunity to
But
start
then you
out
give
on a
them
way
other-
negative
No.
vibe is going to be bad.
Y'all are problematizing things like a
Yeah, Mayor,
nightmare.
I think there's just a lot of what ifs that there's
Yeah.
no possible way for us to answer those
Yeah.
tonight.
and I really trust,
Like, at a
I
certain
want to
point,
let
we
y'all
do
know,
both.
like, I trust y'all to be able to determine what's appropriate. This was intended to be the general guidance, but they still have the authority to determine what's best. And the public, at the end of the day, is to respect the rules that are established either way.
And I don't see how any rules that they make before, about a citizen comment before, is gonna be fun for everybody.
We're not here to please everybody, make it fun for everybody. how do we start infusing different and more mechanisms of involvement? It's like, I feel like, or the way I'm taking it is like, oh, if we can't make it perfect, then why bother, right? And if we approached the last recorded meetings and all that with that energy, we wouldn't have made the progress that we did then. If the association and the staff and council all didn't have the political courage and the community care to say, come what may, like, we are gonna trust our neighbors to not go crazy if given the opportunity to come to the meetings, or, like, if we hadn't taken that trust fall into our own neighbors that they're not gonna behave like savages or throw fits, we wouldn't have made any progress in 2023. I feel like we're not giving the neighbors like the,
That's why I'm saying, have the public forums, have them in the evening when more people can come,
Oh, Mayor,
and let them do the deal.
that's,
This is not for y'all to be there. This is for people to come in and record it.
what?
And then y'all can review it when you want to. And that's why I'm saying you need a few days. I'm not saying y'all need to be sitting there and the same people on an additional evening. That is never what I said.
Mayor, but in theory, if 100 people come in and record their 1 minute, we're still asking staff to sit there and watch 100 minutes of people speaking. It's not on that night, but we're still asking them to take an additional evening to watch.
Yes, to
1,000,001
listen to
people.
their constituents, to listen to our neighbors, yes, that is.
No, and we signed up for that, but if we're-
But everybody sign, if you work for the city of San Marcos, you're all signing up to listen to our neighbors, what?
either way, my point is, if we're gonna ask them to listen to 100 people speak, I don't think it makes a difference whether we ask them to listen to it live or pre-recorded. We're still asking for them to hear a potential unlimited, and I'm not saying that's a bad thing, I'm just saying, I don't think we need to create all these forums and other events to record it, and we're still gonna force them to listen to it. Just do it the night of, if that's what we're choosing
I
to do.
like the email. I think the email is a great idea, to add another mechanism. So I think that the email is fine.
And with anything in this
Yeah,
city,
right.
we accept emails for just about everything.
Right.
People are able to contact us, and they do.
Yeah.
We get them. So I hear you, Mayor,
Yeah, y'all get
but
'em.
respectfully, I have been just about amenable to just about everything. And, I would just hope that my colleagues can see that rather than approaching this conversation with the way that I'm sure people anticipated me to, and that's just to strike the whole thing, no, I'm trying to meet people in the middle and ensure we have public transparency. So, I'm ready to vote, and we'll see how people feel.
Well, just remember, all the things I was for when y'all go out and say, the mayor's against all transparency, because that won't be fair.
I mean, this
Don't leave it there.
is recorded, Mayor, so.
Yep.
I mean, I know a lot of people count on the fact that our community is too exhausted to go back and watch the record, but if they feel so compelled, they can.
No, and I just think your brain works analytically, Mayor, and I have a lot of respect for that. But I think, as Ms. Garza hinted, if we were to take this approach that everything has to be perfect on everything, we probably would never pass ordinances. We probably wouldn't take on most of the items, because how are all 7 of us going to agree that it's perfect?
I also think political courage and imagination is a little generational too, but we can just vote no.
Oh, that wasn't polite.
It is, it's different approaches, Mayor, and like your approach is your approach, and it's.
Yes, it is.
It is what it is. Like, I'm saying I respect it. I'm saying it's worked for you. You bring great contributions to this dais, but I'm just saying, like, I don't think we're ever gonna be in alignment when it comes to stuff like this and the approach, and that's okay. Because we were both voted in by our neighbors, and maybe they just like the remix of approaches, I don't know. Or maybe they hate us both, who knows?
Find out on the next election.
Is that the mayor announcing her reelection? I don't know.
Nope.
They're just gonna vote us in to keep us tortured. Let's vote.
Oh, wait a minute, something just changed up there. I see that an email option will also be made available.
Okay, but at this point, do we need another motion to amend the motion to add that? Because
I'm assuming that was part of your motion, Ms. Rodriguez.
Yes, ma'am. I thought that that was a good contribution from you.
We talked
and I
about
wasn't
it
against
before you
Yeah, yeah.
brought this up. No, they'll work as soon as we press them. That's because you've already pressed yours and you voted. Mine's blinking because it's waiting on me. You're correct. Usually you don't see mine blinking very long, do you? I'm gonna trust. But I don't like it.
I don't like most of what I vote for, but, you know.
I'm actually confused as to what we're even voting for at this point.
Do what?
I'm confused what we're actually voting for at this point. I'm trying to like reread it and
What's
also
on the
remember what the
screen
last
now,
meeting.
And the
plus
language
the
on the
part on the
resolution.
resolution.
Which was, that was the
So this
concern
is
you
the
had.
attachment.
To the resolution,
Yes.
Yeah.
directing the city manager to request these things at the beginning of the meet and confer negotiations and a negotiation of the ground rules at that time.
Because there's more good in here than there is uncertainty. Although I'm really uncomfortable with the uncertainty.
I'm gonna abstain just for the bit. Yeah, I am not fully convinced of what I'm reading, so I'm confused, therefore I'm abstaining. But no, I voted yes.
Okay, and this was the amendment. So now I will, because I feel like I need to ask, are there any further amendments? If there aren't any, is there any more conversation on the motion as amended? What was before us?
I have conversation, which is, I appreciate everybody's patience. I do think this is, we're in.
We made progress.
Yes. We made a lot of progress.
Yeah, and as somebody who like was there in 23, like this is growth, and I appreciate it, like genuinely, I appreciate that, because being on the citizen side, the last time, it was a lot of disappointment, and so I like to see growth. I always applaud that.
This is a lot of growth, man.
Ms. Cordova, would you
And
reset
to
us so
think
that
we're
we can
gonna
vote?
grow again on the next item.
I'm sorry?
Oh,
Oh, we're good now. Oh, no, it's not blinking. Okay, y'all, if there's nothing further, we will vote on the motion as amended. Now we're blinking.
I can hear you guys.
All right.
Motion, the mayor.
Just kidding, I'm just kidding.
The
Okay.
motion passed.
And that concludes item 4, and now we will move on to item 5.
Amanda owes us all dessert.
Consider approval of Resolution 2025-211, approving a memorandum of understanding with the San Marcos Police Officers Association to extend the current meet and confer agreement to this September 30, 2027, and to provide a 5% base pay salary increase for police officers beginning October 1st, 2026, authorizing the city manager or her designee to execute the memorandum of understanding and declaring an effective date.
Looking for a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second,
We have a motion from Mr. Scott. I'll give Ms. Garza the second today.
because I meet people halfway, you guys.
Ms. Rodriguez,
I wanted to give space. I didn't know if you had a separate presentation.
presentation?
Okay, just wanted to give space for that.
Okay,
If we could pull up the same motion, just for the sake of continuity.
ditto.
I suspect what you want to do is the exact same thing, except
Yes.
substitute the
Police.
San Marcos police officers,
No, this says,
Right here.
oh, here,
Yeah.
Yeah.
yes.
The formal name, I need to look at the agenda of
Yeah,
the
we want to make
organization.
sure we treat the associations the same.
No,
Police
this
Officers
is, this
Association.
doesn't say, oh, well, no, it would be the
Fire or
resolution
police.
for the police,
Yeah.
which is, and it's actually not exactly the same.
The San Marcos Police Officers Association.
Yeah,
That's the
and
name.
if you'll look at the two resolutions, they were not exactly the same.
Yeah.
There's like a little.
They're a little different.
There's a different base pay as well.
No, in the resolution. But anyway, we need to go to that resolution. Let's see, Windows, Shift, S. Grab the screenshot. That was weird. There we go. Are we ready?
Yes, Mayor, I'm just trying to find a good place to let this follow. Shall extend, Sam, would you be comfortable just legally, or is this the police one?
Yeah.
Yes, yeah. So we did it on part one the last time, so for the sake of continuity. And it was subject to,
The language is, subject to the city manager requesting that the attached terms and conditions be considered for inclusion in the ground rules governing the 2027 meet and confer agreement negotiations at the beginning of the negotiation process.
and,
And then those terms would be attached.
And that was not specific to meet and fire, police or fire either. It said
Right.
meet and confer agreements or something.
mhm.
So I
And-
don't
and-
think there's anything to amend there.
Well, the only thing there is, since the beginning of part one,
No, I'm talking
Oh.
about the attachment.
got you.
Is that okay? I just want to, okay. Yes, so my motion to amend is, for part one, subject to the city manager requesting that the attached terms and conditions be considered for inclusion in the ground rules governing the 2027 meet and confer agreement negotiations at the beginning of the negotiation process.
And in part two, what did you have before? Subject to part one, I think?
Subject to part one at the beginning of, there
Yeah.
you go, thank you.
What I was
So
thinking.
second.
Okay.
Thank you. And just for the public, it would be the same language that we had previously.
And Ms. Rodriguez, Mr. Lorenzo Gonzalez, you seconded that, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. All righty. So the motion to amend is on the table. Is there any discussion? Would you set us up to vote, Ms. Cordova?
The motion passes 6-1.
All righty, and so now we are to the motion as amended. If you'll set us up to vote, please.
And the motion passes 7-0.
All right, we will move on to item 6.
Consider approval of Resolution 2025-212, approving an agreement to mutually terminate an amendment and reinstate Cotton Center Development Agreement and consent agreement concerning approximately 1,786 acres of land in Caldwell County, east of the city, authorizing the city manager or her designee to execute said agreement on behalf of the city, approving the release of said land from the city's extraterritorial jurisdiction and declaring an effective date.
Motion to approve. Second, whatever.
I will take Mr. Scott for that, and who seconded?
Well, we both made the motion.
Did Mr. Gonzalez
both.
make that one? Okay, that's fine.
It doesn't matter.
Motion by Mr. Lorenzo Gonzalez, seconded by Amanda Rodriguez. Any conversation, comments, concerns? Let's vote.
And the motion passes 7-0.
All right, item 7.
Discuss and consider appointment to fill a vacancy on the library board and provide direction to staff.
I would like to put the name of David Morgan forward.
I want to nominate Catherine Ramirez.
Who?
Catherine Ramirez?
Let me see my notes on that, I don't remember.
My notes have that David is the only one that mentioned I go to the library. The others sounded great. They just sound like nice people. I want to serve my community, but they didn't mention that they use the library. Are there any others? Nominees? Okay, you'll have to ask each one of us, and we will give you the first name.
Okay. Ms. Rodriguez?
Mayor, you said Morgan?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, David Morgan.
Mr. Gonzalez? Ms. Garza?
Ramirez. Catherine. My bad.
Mayor?
David Morgan.
Mr. Scott?
Say it was Kevin? Couldn't hear.
David.
I vote for David.
Mr. Mendoza?
David Morgan.
Mr. Gonzalez?
Catherine.
Catherine. All right, the motion is for David Morgan.
Item 8.
5-2.
All right, thank you. Item 8.
David's like, I read books.
All right.
Now it's I and my
Cons-
children go to the library.
Consider the nomination of the city manager, mayor, or one council member and one member of the City of San Marcos staff nominated by the city manager to serve on the Hayes Caldwell Economic Development Partnership Board of Directors and provide direction to staff.
Okay, so we have a city manager, we have a mayor.
I'd like to volunteer Councilmember Garza.
Wow. Sure. We're getting rid of one, right? Because we had two.
You want to do it?
One got converted to the staff person,
Oh, gotcha.
which I need to ask Ms. Reyes who she wants to appoint, but maybe she'll get back shortly. And may I mention that the meetings are quarterly. The annual meeting is in October, and it's at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. The other meetings are January, April, and July. They're lunchtime meetings, and lunch is provided.
Oh, dang, I want to do it.
They're
Well-
very boring, and I think that the contributions that we make is also going to like all the other side meetings and stuff, and
And how many meetings have
Meetings.
you made in the last 2 years?
I don't know, look at the meeting minutes.
I did.
I go to quite a bit, and if I don't go to the annual one and stuff, it's because they don't have like a Zoom option.
We'll have Zoom options. We haven't had any Zoom options
Yeah,
since,
yes, we have.
Since shortly after COVID.
That's not true. Whenever they couldn't make quorum because half the room is missing because of their timing, they had
was by
Zoom
phone.
options. No, they had Zoom options. And let's talk about why nobody goes to these meetings. Shane, how many do you go to? Yeah, because they're
Apparently, you're supposed to go to 4.
Look,
a
but
year.
Matthew, are you interested in going?
Oh, heck no. I got too many. I got 12 already, so we're good.
Amanda, do you want to go? Because the mayor's making it seem like my contributions are not valid because I don't go to the meetings that nobody else goes to.
I think your contributions could be good. You just don't go very often.
There's so many other touch points to be engaged with the partnership that aren't those 4 meetings that nobody else goes to. Look, I know you're still mad about the comment I made a bit ago, but like you don't have to project and be a hater.
I'm just telling the truth.
I'm just saying, look,
So-
I'm pretty sure
You're already on the list then, right?
I am.
Okay, let's just vote.
Sorry, Mayor.
I need the name of the staff member.
Yes, so Stephanie, I believe, had intended to nominate me. The bylaw changes were changed for the city manager to nominate an appointee
she's
or an
back.
appointment.
They're asking for your nomination.
I nominate Rodney Gonzalez, Assistant City Manager.
That's what we need.
He said his name is me.
Are there any other nominations for the council member?
Just FYI, they said that, like, folks viewing at home, that the live stream is frozen.
Uh-oh.
No, it's because we all died debating the last item. Well, not like immediate last, but like, 4 and 5.
Isn't that supposed to be what's going out?
I don't know, does
To the
anybody
control
have the
room.
live stream link?
Is there anybody on staff that's watching the meeting?
Oh, she said we're troubleshooting.
Lauren said they're troubleshooting.
They're working on it? Okay. Okay, so at this point, we've got our, the city manager, the mayor, the staff member would be Rodney Gonzalez and Ms. Garza. If you'll set us up to vote, Ms. Cordova. Actually, you could go ahead and do that after you read it, and we'll just let it sit till we're ready to push the buttons.
So go ahead and just read the.
We're ready to vote.
Okay.
Mine isn't blinking. They're not blinking for us to vote.
My mom said it's back up, in case anybody was wondering.
Okay, good.
Is it doing it now?
Yeah.
Yeah, we're blinking now.
Okay.
No, the link doesn't work on my phone.
All right. It passed 7-0.
Okay, hold on. Would you explain what happened and where we are now?
Yes, ma'am. So it looks like the interruption happened within the last 10 minutes, but Ms. Surley did confirm that everything was recorded and it will be uploaded to the website
So we're
tomorrow.
recording, we just weren't projecting.
Correct.
Okay.
We weren't broadcasting.
All right, yeah, that's it.
And it's dinner time.
Okay, on to item 9.
The city council will convene an executive session pursuant to the following section of the Texas Government Code. 1, Section 551.087, Economic Development, to deliberate regarding possible incentives for A, Project Shirley Temple, B, Project Primrose, and C, the River Bridge Public Improvement District. Number 2, Section 551.071, consultation with attorney, and 551.072, real property, to receive legal advice and deliberate regarding the lease and real property at 201 South LBJ Drive.
Need a motion to go into executive session. Ms. Rodriguez, seconded by Mr. Scott. This is because we did not conclude this at our 3 o'clock meeting. So let's vote on whether we're going into executive session or not. Uh-oh. Oh, she reset for us.
Did it not clear again?
Now they're blinking. And we will go into executive session at 8:42 with the vote being 7-0 to go into executive session. Council has come back from their executive session, which we concluded at 9:09. Ms. Cordova, would you read item 10, please?
The city council will convene an executive session pursuant to the following sections of the Texas Government Code. Section 551.087, Economic Development, to deliberate regarding possible incentives for Project Shirley Temple, B, Project Primrose, and C, the River Bridge Public Improvement District. B, Section 551.071, consultation with attorney, and 551.072, real property, to receive legal advice and deliberate regarding the lease of real property at 201 South LBJ Drive.
Regarding the Section 1, Shirley Temple, Primrose, and River Bridge, those items were discussed and deliberated. On item B, lease of real property at 201 South LBJ Drive, the tenant has requested to renew his lease. Is there a motion? Mr. Gary, what does it mean if there is no motion on this item?
If there's no motion, to renew, basically, the lease has an expiration date, and it automatically expires at the end of the term, which would be in January.
Okay. All right, thank you. Question answer with press and public. I don't believe we had anyone signed up,
No, ma'am.
Ms. Cordova?
We do not.
All right, in that case, the next, we have nothing else to take action on our agenda, so I will adjourn us at 9:12 PM.